I took some around 10 blockchain solution which is all designed for financial industry. So why financial industry is different than what already the Bitcoin, Ethereum and others are there, and these cryptocurrencies are already there, and there is a way that this can be transferred. So why financial industry is different, and why these various organizations is developing a new solution for the financial industry? The reason behind is that blockchain is, when you are doing it like Bitcoin, there is nobody who can see the data. So KYC is a big issue. The second thing is that how the banks can be able to transfer, and how the regulators can be seen, or regulator can see the data. So all this move towards that how we can be able to generate a new blockchain. The other area is the speed. So if you see the blockchain today, this Bitcoin, it's a very slow, almost takes a few minutes or sometime 10 minutes to do one transaction. But when you will see the PayPal or credit card, they process millions of transactions per minute. So how we can be able to address this issue? And that's how these all blockchain solutions has started working on. And so there are three main areas. One is basically Linux Foundation. So Linux Foundation is playing a very vital role on open source, and 187 companies are part of that Linux Foundation. This foundation is more than 15,000 programmers are engaged on a regular basis, which are basically taking the benefit from this Linux Foundation. All these, what you can see on a screen, are also part of the Linux Foundation, and even the Corda, which is the R3 blockchain solution, is now put their solution as a open source onto the Linux Foundation as well. So this is a great sort of things are happening at this point of time. The people can know exactly that who is doing what, and these innovation which is coming into the blockchain, the people can understand the rationale behind is why these are happening. So let me go a little bit of a one by one, and I will try to cover first, which is Hyperlader. So Hyperlader is an open source collaborative effort created to advance cross-industry blockchain technologies. It is a global collaboration hosted by the Linux Foundation, including leaders in finance, banking, IoT, supply chain, manufacturing, and the technology. This project is currently has three major areas. One is Fabric, second is Strawtooth, and third is Corda. While Fabric is the implemented by the IBM, Strawtooth is developed by Intel, and as I said before, that Corda has been developed by R3 purely in a mindset of a financial industry, and they have currently doing using this Corda solution blockchain for trade finance area. We'll discuss more on when we'll come to the Corda level. So if you see the more on Fabric side, there are multiple areas on a Fabric. So first thing is that Fabric has created some new things as well for a financial industry. One of the things which I liked it is channel. So it is not all about that we have to store the data on all nodes. Through the channel, you can create a separate channel, and the data can be stored on a limited number of nodes, and that can create a significant speed. In fact, and through this mechanism, it is a lot of flexibility will come in fact, that who are the stakeholders which is supposed to be part of the transaction, and who can be able to see the data too. The other area is that in a blockchain, they came up with the solution called chain code. And chain code is more towards like how the overall transaction has to happen. And it is very similar that what Ethereum is having a smart contract. So whoever is developing for a particular industry this solution, they can be able to use this chain code to define the rules and how these transaction processing has to be executed. Let me move to the another area, which is Corda. Very interesting thing. And Corda is a decentralized database platform designed and built from the ground up for the recording and automation of a global agreement between identified parties. So very interesting, this is called identified parties. So it's heavily designed for the financial industry, and it is the architects purely designed from a perspective of how the financial industry works. So the number of banks has actually shake the hand with the R3, and there is a project which is called Marco Polo, and this is mainly that documentary trade and the trade. They are trying to create a global platform where all the stakeholders should be there, and how we can be able to do the trade or fund transfer in the trade in a very faster manner. So this is something that they are trying to resolve, and the banks are part of it. But what is happening is, as the banks are part of it, the whole design factor is more towards how the banks works. So if you really see that what they did is, they listened more to bankers. And when you start listening to the bankers, you can see the mindset what the bankers are having it. It is not coming from a very, very innovative way, but they are trying to build in a mechanism that only if there are 3 banks are involved, only 3 banks has to be part of the transaction. No else has to be able to see. The regulator should be in the middle of the whole blockchain. So when I'm saying a blockchain, in fact, in Corda there is no block and there is no chain. This is a distributed ledger basically. And this distributed ledger has been designed in a way that it should fulfill the requirement of the financial industry. They have introduced another area which is very interesting, and that is called notary. And in the notary, there is something that who's supposed to complete the proof of work. And proof of work requires somebody has to approve. It is very similar like when you are saying Bitcoin. These miners are actually approving the transaction or authenticating the transaction. So the number of these Bitcoin miners are actually approving this. And that takes a lot of time, because when the transaction is happening and before it should go and registered into the blockchain, there is a process where this is supposed to be approved. And what IBM or Corda did it, they came up with a way, although the consensus technology was almost same, and both are giving this opportunity to the organization that which kind of consensus model they would like to attach it, but they have created this notary. To me, I think this is a very good introduction. It is almost the same thing what IBM created a channel. The other thing is that you have seen that in this slide that counterparty. So only registered counterparties has to participate. Not everybody has to participate into it. And the same thing, they want to create a speed that, and also the only those banks which are involved in a transaction should be knowing it. So purpose of the counterparty and the knots of these counterparties and the banks should know the transaction. Notary has to play their own roles. So this is a very, very different way of handling the blockchain in a secure manner, and only to address one particular financial industry area. Now, it is all in a test level. So this is a pilot projects going on with the bank, and they are also learning by implementing these things, that what is working, what is not working, and if there is areas where they have to do and try to do something different, they can be able to do that. But it is very interesting to note that R3 Corda don't have the block and they don't have the chain. So when we are saying blockchain solution, whether only the DLT solution is a blockchain solution, and if you are using a DLT in a manner that it is working in a same way what is required by the industry, maybe the answer is yes, because innovation has to happen in a blockchain, and millions of dollars these companies are putting into innovation and coming up with new ideas and new solutions. So let me move it to another area, which is this is a kind of Corium. And what is Corium? Corium is same Ethereum version. So the few banks took the Ethereum version and gone through with this whole innovation and implemented the Ethereum version to banking sector. So Wall Street banking giant JP Morgan Chase has launched a new interbank payment platform powered by IIN, and with the participation of the two banks, Australian-based ANZ Bank and Royal Bank of Canada. IIN will enhance the client experience, decreasing the amount of time from the weeks to hours and costs associated with resolving payment delays. Blockchain capability have allowed to rethink how critical information can be secured and exchanged between the global banks. So if you see Corium used the Ethereum advantage, mainly the smart contract as well, and what they did in each area of a blockchain, they have made number of changes in Ethereum and came up with this new blockchain solution called Corium. So this is also again for the financial industry, and they are using not the same like what IBM and R3 Corda is using. So if you see this, as I said, that it is built on Ethereum, and simply the whole architect has not been changed. It is a slight modifications and created a private smart contract changes, and private smart contract state validation by the priorities to contract only. So if you see the contract only means that again they are creating that parties who are part of the contract, they can only be able to see and participate into the smart contract. They have a transfer manager. Transfer manager is exactly the same what IBM is using chain code, which is or layer on top of blockchain, which is basically determines that how the transaction will happen. And same as they came up with the quorum chain. It's a voting based mechanism. So the banks has to vote against the transaction, and if they vote yes, and the voting goes to the limited number of partners, and they have to vote that whether proof of work has happened, and if the all vote, it has been seen as a transaction happened. And BFT is I will not go into this what it is, but these are the consensus mechanism which most of the blockchain solutions are using it. Area, you can see very clearly that the way they have designed is the banks are there, and they can have a directly communication as well, but other partners are basically vote, and there is a few number of partners can vote. Not all the partner has to vote. And you can see very interesting, the regulator is in the middle of this whole blockchain as well. And the same as it is in a Corda R3, that they have created a layer for the regulators, and the regulators are involved into the overall this process. So if you see the two main, which is very similar like IBM and Corda, you can see that general purpose blockchain, which is IBM, where Corda is a very specific private distributed DLT ledger. And when you see the governance model more on a Linux foundation, R3 has their own model, but they have agreed to give all their codes as an open source on a Linux foundation. Both are permissioned based, and I already spoken that smart contract that IBM is talking about, chain code, and what R3 is doing is that it is limited, and it is tweaked JVM Java, and BFT can also be used. So it is a combination of various things. It is not only the very one thing you can be able to use it. Network is a private and semi-private. So R3 you can see that is a semi-private. Why? It is only designed for banks. Whereas in case of IBM, it is private because you can use or you can make a semi-private or very private by using the channel. Why it is? Because IBM want to keep the blockchain very flexible so that it can be used in every area, not only for financial industry. So it can be used for the supply chain, it can be used for the health industry, it can be used for the property registration. So they kept it in a way that it should be slightly flexible, where the R3 is purely designed for the financial industry. Database, there is no database in a sense of IBM. IBM have a multiple choices which you can be able to link it. Whereas Corda developed some APIs, and it is part of the build. So Oracle is a part of the build. The last thing is the access control list. Both are providing it, and that is okay. Now let me go to another where you can be able to see little bit of a different story. So before I should jump to the Ripple, I want to show this too, and this is the fourth blockchain I will cover. I cannot cover all the 10 here. I have chosen only the 4. So before I have to go to the Ripple, I would like to show this where the Ripple is, the blockchain, and what is the value they want to create. So by looking into this, you can see that Ripple is very much like decentralized, very much like Bitcoin kind of. And a statement process is Bitcoin is a proof of work where the miners are involved. Consensus is a consensus very similar, that there are multiple stakeholders who has to create the consensus. Now, very interesting, and I don't want to touch here the cryptocurrency, and probably some other time I can be able to speak about cryptocurrency. But what Ripple did it, they have created a cryptocurrency which is XRP, and they have intention to basically utilize it. And what they did is, they have not created this through mining. So there are two ways of creating the cryptocurrency. One is exactly like what has happened in a Bitcoin, where the miners are there and they resolve some mathematical algo, and by doing this efforts, they are putting a lot of energy and other things, they get a reward, and the reward is basically the Bitcoin. In the form of Bitcoin, and that's how all miners are making the investment. And later on, these miners play the role of a consensus, because they have to give assurance of two things. One is they have to make sure the transaction has to happen on a right way, so the these miners has to say yes. The second thing is all hacking. So whatever you heard about on a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency hacking, it is all hacking has happened on exchange level, not happened on the level of miners. So this is the difference, that blockchain solution on a Bitcoin is quite secure, but when somebody is keeping the coin and it is keeping into the exchange or exchange box, it is not secure. It is exactly the same thing, like banks providing the security that when somebody is keeping the money in a secure way, it is secure. Whereas when the exchange is keeping the money, how much they are secure, that has to be looked into, and that has to be evolved in a passage of time, that how these exchanges has to work. So what Ripple did is, they minted. So what is the minted? Minting is a very different way of doing the cryptocurrency, that they have created X billion cryptocurrency and a wide prices and kept it with us by themselves. And then they have released around 40% of that and sold it. So still 60% is with them, which they can be able to release at any point of time. And probably they are keeping it for a view that when they need more money, they can be able to do it. But so I'm not going into the debate of the cryptocurrency here, just trying to tell you that yes, there is a cryptocurrency in a Ripple as well. So this, out of these four which I discussed, like R3 Corda don't have the currency, IBM solution don't have the currency, Ethereum, don't have the currency. Ripple, the fourth one, I have taken is purely from a perspective that at least I should use one which is more of a cryptocurrency based. Now, speed is the main thing. Like today, if you see the Swift messages, it takes 2 to 5 days. In fact, sometimes it is 3, 4, 5 days. So it takes a lot of time to transfer the money from one place to another place. Whereas a Bitcoin is between 10 minutes to 60 minutes, you can say in a good timing it can do in a 2 to 3 minutes as well, because when the volume is very low, it can be able to do in a faster track. However, Ripple can do only 3 to 6 seconds, and that's where the whole thing is, that how by using the blockchain, someone can come and do the way that speed, they can transfer the fund in a very high speed level. And that's what is the customer experience comes into. Everybody wants that when he is transferring the money from one country to another country, it has to go immediately. Currently, by using the Swift message and using the various ways the bank works, and I will show you some of the areas where the bank's taking the time. Currency, already spoken, what kind of currency they are using. Transaction cost, I'll come later on to that, that what is the cost is. Now, a little bit of two mechanism, what Ripple is using it. One of the Ripple mechanism is that there is no cryptocurrency into it. So what they are doing is they are doing very much like connecting to the two banks and eliminating many areas, and without using the cryptocurrency, they are providing a transaction in a very fast manner. So that is a one mechanism they are using it. And so here it is. Like if you can see this, there is a banks here in one country and a bank in another country, how they can interact with each other. There is a messaging in between as well, and there is a FX conversion as well. So let's move into faster way that how it is coming into the pricing mode. So we discuss about customer experience, that definitely the customer is very happy on a speed side. But is really the customer is getting a benefit on a cost as well? Like, is the cross-border transaction is charging less? So what Ripple is saying is that there are these number of areas where you can see banks are engaged and doing the activity. So foreign exchange is one of the area. And you can see the two large area, which is treasury operation and liquidity, and as well as a payment operation. So banks is taking a huge time to reduce, to process this all transaction, and there are number of activities and the number of department has to be involved. So there is a department which is basically getting the request, or in many cases, in some of the countries it is not online, it is basically people are coming to the branches and making the request, and it is a physical TT form has to be filled. In certain countries it is online, it is an app where you can be able to go and really make a request for the fund transfer. Ripple is saying that if we can not use the cryptocurrency, we can be able to reduce the bank's 33% of the cost. So where they can be able to reduce the cost, if you can really see, they can be able to reduce the cost in a liquidity area, they can reduce the cost into payment operation, and that's it. Remaining all will be there. So FX still is a FX, so bank has to charge the FX, and that's the whole thing comes into that. Is the enough transparency is there that what FX has been charged by the bank to the customer, and same as what are the charges the banks are charging into. So one area is how the customer getting a speed, and second is what is the cost to them. So let's see the little bit more on a cost side, because this is something important. So this is a comparison of a normal banking industry and TransferWise. So TransferWise is a mechanism in mobile banks only. So most of the mobile banks only have already been connected with the TransferWise. So if you will see the cost difference between how the TransferWise is more cheaper than actually the bank's average. And this is very important to see, because the 2-3 areas now, TransferWise does the netting on a fund where they are, like 26 countries they are in, and they can do the netting. Same as even the banks can do. The multinational bank has a huge presentation in the geographies, and they can be able to do the netting as well. The most important is the making the money. So the banks sometimes is making the money on FX. Very simple. That there is a small it is not like the same FX you can get from the market. So that is something that is special rate for this fund transfer, and that's how the bank makes the money. And customer want to know exactly that how much you are charging for FX. So this transparency today is not available, and I can see a huge benefit with the blockchain solution, that everything will be transparent. The customer can exactly see the how much time it has been taken. Customer can be able to see that how much money has been taken by the blockchain solution provider, like we discussed the Ripple, and also how much charged by the bank. One more on a cost, and I want to show you. It is between the PayPal and the TransferWise. So you can see still PayPal is expensive than a TransferWise. Now, TransferWise is not on a blockchain. So I'm using it just that when even you are not on a blockchain, how you can be able to give better service on a better low-cost service. Definitely TransferWise is also not as good in a speed like blockchain will be, that in a few seconds transaction can be done. There is a one solution, and there is a few use cases like Abra. They are using the Bitcoin to transfer the fund in a few second time from US to Philippines. And that is happening in a very, very fast track. So in a few second time, the people can be able to get the money in Philippines. And that is all used by the blockchain, and very low cost, because it is using the blockchain existing solution, which is the Bitcoin. But moving forward, like Ripple is coming, might be R3 will come their own model. There are many banks which are working. So you have seen, I've shown you only the Ethereum, but I've not gone to the remaining 6, and you can be able to see the number of banks in Japan and in other part of the world. They have created a collaboration as well, and they are coming up with their own blockchains. So you will see first the number of blockchain will come, and after a few years you can be able to see that how one blockchain solution can be speak to another blockchain solution when they are doing a financial transaction. So there will be another step will come after that. Blockchain is a revolution, and I said many times that if really you want to transfer the value, blockchain will be the revolutionary technology in a coming 3 to 5 years time. It will take some time. All these solutions which I talked about, all are in a pilot stage, and banking is trying to resolve the problem that it should be in a very secure manner, and it should be in a very transparent manner, and the regulator should also be seen, or regulation has to be complied with. But this has to happen. The blockchain has to happen, and this is happening. And I talked about more on a financial industry, but a lot of people are developing the blockchain solution every day, in fact, either using the existing technology, mainly is Ethereum based solutions are coming up. And what these people are doing it, they are trying to the solution which is society solution. Like one of the lady came up and she said that my song I'm putting on a blockchain, and if anybody would like to use it, there is a smart contract. So if you would want to listen, probably it is free. If somebody want to use for the commercial use, there is a price. You can download, you can make a tone, but you have to pay for it. So same as the Corda has launched a one blockchain, just said that we are moving to the blockchain, and their share price has gone up by 40%. And the reason behind it, they are saying that photos are the intellectual property of the people, and that has to own a blockchain. And if anybody would like to use the photo for commercial use, they have to pay through the smart contract, and we have to register all the photographs all across the world on a blockchain. Even like Dubai is the first movers on registering the asset, which is property assets, on a blockchain. So they are saying by 2020, every property in Dubai will be on a blockchain. So blockchain is a revolution, and revolution in a way that now we have to see that whatever the asset is in any form, it can be transferred digitally as well, and that is the whole revolution is coming. I feel that in the next few years, blockchain will improve. Financial industry will start using it, and lot of people who are putting the money through the ICOs or directly the various stakeholders are shaking the hand and giving the funding to develop the blockchain. It will pay the benefit to the industry. Thank you very much.